All right, this is Ryan, and we are back with TEW 2020 Impact 2022, the last week of February, and we are going into Impact, the Fallout show from No Surrender. Some big developments from No Surrender. To recap really quick, um, Diana Prazo retained all of her titles against Mickey James in a cage match. The Good Brothers retained their tag titles against the Wolves. Trey Miguel retained his X title against Chris Sabin. Josh Alexander and Moose won their respective Pick Your Poison matches. Heading into their big not I Quit, but Loser Leaves Impact match at Sacrifice. We saw a lot of new talent come in. We had the debut of Swerve Strickland, the returns of Homicide and uh, Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett and Nick Aldis, maybe. um, but yeah, we got a big episode of Impact planned. I'll go into the news, not a whole lot. So enjoy these results of BTI while I pull up these news. Um, as far as our TV last week, I think ratings remain the same. BTI at a point zero 0.01 and Impact at a point 0.23. Attendance was 452, which was slightly down from 458 the week before. As far as No Surrender goes, the attendance was 1,800, which was down from 2,300 from Hard to Kill, and the buy rate was 0.45, which was down from 0.47 for Hard to Kill. I think I slightly had some or had slightly less what would you call it? Like distributors or people airing the pay-per-view, but I don't think it would have mattered. For point zero 0.02 points of buy rate. But yeah, we are slightly heading down from before. The lack of big names hurt No Surrender. Was kind of hoping that these new names would help, but I think we are definitely going to need some bigger ones. And hopefully we have some coming. Um, Not a whole lot of news on our side other than kind of fiddling with settings for relationships with other companies. Adopted more of a friendly attitude towards New Japan. Um, don't know if that will necessarily help us, but would it hurt? I guess. Um, as far as the WWE goes, Bobby Lashley regained the IC title from Nakamura on this Friday SmackDown. That was kind of the only news bit I had for before No Surrender, but I figured that could wait. But then afterwards, as far as a lot of their deals go, the cannibalization of the Performance Center continues as Sarah Amato, Norman Smiley, Terry Taylor, Brian Kendrick, and Mandy Rose were all called up to the main roster. So I don't really know what's left with their developmental. Um, Morgan Webster and Dominic Mysterio extended their deals, and in kind of big injury news, Timothy Thatcher suffered a herniated disc and will be out for over a year. So that's kind of a bummer for him. In indie news, there was a big to do that Austin Aries left Defy Wrestling. Don't know where else he is working, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's just burning bridges left and right, like kind of like he does in real life. Um, PWG Malachi Black left PWG. I think mostly because he had extended his deal with AEW into an exclusive deal. So I guess that deal went into effect, and Malachi had to leave PWG and is sticking with AEW. And as far as AIW goes, um, Dominic Greeney has signed up for an MMA fight, so I guess that is going to. I'm not sure how that works, but I looked it up. I guess that means he's going to like a training camp and will be out of wrestling action for like what was it, like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. So kind of a loss for them um going forward, but they have Matt Cardona, so that'll help. um Retirements, there was actually a lot of retirements announced. I'm not gonna go into them because there are a lot of Japanese and Mexican names that I didn't really recognize. A lot of like low level, yeah, just people that I'm not familiar with. But as far as people I am familiar with, announced Tito Santana, Takashi Sugiura, which who I'm not familiar with, but he is currently the champ for Noah. So it's kind of weird that their main champ is announcing his retirement. Um, Tony Kozina, Ultramantis Black, and former TNA knockout Brooke Adams. So they are announced as retirement, and then retirements that have gone to effect. Two legends, Jimmy Hart and Kim Juanito. So big losses to the wrestling world for them, but we wish them well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the news. Let's go into Impact. All right, so starting off Impact, kind of a hoss battle, I guess, and fallout from the Swingers Casino Battle Royale. We see Black Taurus, who is not affiliated with anybody, considering Decay was forced to break up due to the results of that Battle Royal, versus Madman Fulton, accompanied by Ace Austin. Unfortunately, Madman Fulton defeated Black Taurus following interference with Ace Austin. Ace Austin, as he's wont to do, uses his cane to hit Black Taurus. Black Taurus kind of no sells it, and but that gets the distraction for Fulton to win. But unfortunately, looks like Madman Fulton sustained a partial PCL tear, segment rating of 21. So I guess we will find out what will happen to him. But yeah, probably would have been a big win for Madman Fulton if he had not been injured. Um, yep. Thanks, Rhino. Yep. All right, we go backstage where Johnny Swinger is kind of hyping himself up to return to Swingers Casino. If you remember, Swingers Casino was mostly run out of a random closet in the Impact Arena. So he goes to open the door of that arena, kind of builds himself up, like rubs his hands together, opens the door, and nothing. Just nothing there. He kind of throws a fit until he sees a note on, the door. Um, and I kind of broke this up into two segments. Unfortunately, this only got a rating of 18, but I wanted to get the whole Swingers crew involved. So basically, we come back after the commercial break, and Swingers holding a note. He's like, I don't get paid to read this crap. Zicky, what does the note say? And Zicky's like, uh, meet me, or well, first of all, he's ranting. He'd be like, "Damn it, that Mitchell screwed us over again. I knew he was gonna renege on this deal. Because we won. He promised to bring back Swingers Casino. Where is it? Where's all the stuff? All I saw is this note." And he's like, I'm not paid to read this crap. Zicky, what does it say? And Zicky's like, meet me at this address next week. So we have Swingers crew kind of wondering what the status of their casino is. The whole group gets a segment rating of 26, which is better than the previous segment. But yeah, did James Mitchell renege on his deal? Even though Swinger won, um, wouldn't be out of the uh, ordinary, but we'll see next week. Then afterwards, we get the X Division champion Trey Miguel coming off of his defense from No Surrender, hanging out, and we see Sam Beal coming from the ring, or well, kind of warming down, cooling down. Warming down is not a thing. Cooling down from his BTI match where he was able to defeat John Skyler. They kind of, dap each other up and, high five each other and then kind of Beal is like, "Hey man, thanks for helping me out. Thanks for letting me use your ring back home, which, these guys are kind of like my uh local heroes here in I wouldn't say heroes, but uh some Northwest Ohio talent here." And he's like, yeah, thanks for, letting me use your ring back home. And, some of that stuff I had to unlearn from Brian Myers, had to do. But, that did really well for me. And uh, if it's not too much, I know you're just coming off of title defense, but, I think I'm ready. I think, uh, I want to face you for an X title shot. And Miguel's like, "Whoa, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad your career's looking up, but, you know, you're not Chris Sabin. You can't just demand X title shots like that." And Sam's like, I know," but Miguel's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I kind of heard rumblings that next week, there might be a number one contenders title or number one contenders match to determine my opponent for sacrifice. So, I'll put in a good word for you." So, um, that gets a segment rating of 28. Sam's like, chance is all I need. I just want to prove myself. I just want, I I I, I want to be part of this division. And show people I'm, not a lackey like, Brian Myers might have been or might have thought I was. So, that would consider a babyface turn. Um, this turn has suffered, which too many recent turns have been shocks with little buildup behind them. This turn went badly, unfortunately. So, maybe that's something I gotta work on. I don't know if I should uh, signal for more turns or enact them earlier. If you notice the Swingers Palace previous segments, some of them had mentioned that they might be in line for a face turn, which I kind of considered them like comedic faces anyway, but most of Decay were set as faces anyway, so I didn't want to have like an all face match. So technically they were heels, and Sam Beal, was probably a heel from his association with Brian Myers, but had to turn him face regardless, especially if I want him, on TV more. So maybe these turns that I need to kind of set things right, kind of need to be booked more and with more foresight, I guess. So next segment, we have Masha Slamovich, Jordan Grace, and Rachel Ellering defeating Team MBK of Madison Rain, Brandy Lauren, and Kimberly. If you remember from last week, and we kind of reiterated this point at on before the impact that Kimberly has been trying to help Brandy Lauren ever since they've kind of recovered from being Sue Young's servant or undead brides. but Madison Rain wants to take Brandy under her wing, and Madison Rain has kind of put the ultimatum saying, Brandy, you have a choice. Either choose Kimber or choose me. And I don't like how it says submitted Kimberly after blatantly cheating. This is supposed to be like a another opponent miscommunication, kind of like how they lost last week. Kimberly takes the loss here again after some fumbling, or whether Madison Rain like refusing to tag in or whatever, just general dissension. But a segment rating of 30, and afterwards, uh, Madison Rain, after the winners celebrate and go back behind, when Madison Rain takes the mic and again, like, puts her foot down, Brandy Lawrence, like, you have a choice to make. Do you want to go with her and, keep losing, or do you want to come with me? I'll take you under your wing, or under my wing, and you'll see great heights. I'm a former knockouts champion, probably multiple time, which, I can't remember how many times, uh, but yeah. And at first, it kind of seems like Brandy is kind of going towards Kimberly, and they kind of hug, but then that's all really a setup for Madison Rain to just lay out Kimber from behind, and Brandy and Madison beat her down. Um, and now it's Brandy Lauren who has obviously associated herself with Madison Rain and turned heel. Let's see how this turn goes. Again, turn compromised. Turn went badly. So again, these turns kind of need to be less impulsive, I guess. But same rating of 22, there need to be more star power for the length, which I don't even remember how long this went. Um, 4 minutes. That's not that long. But yeah, segment rating of 22, and Madison Rain and Brandy Lauren are now a unit, and Kimberly is probably going to be out of the picture for the foreseeable future. We shall see. Um, Later on in the night, Matthew Raywalt comes out, and he comes out by himself, and he has an announcement to make. He takes the ring, and basically he announces that until Sacrifice, where Deanna Prazzo will be defending the Knockouts title against Rosemary, which Rosemary is remains the number one contender after winning it in Ultimate X at Hard to Kill. So that match will happen, but until then, you won't be seeing Deanna on Impact because she will be staying at home resting from that hellacious main event from No Surrender, and she has earned a break in her schedule to recover and get herself at 100% for her next defense. Um, Unlike Mickey James, who will probably be staying at home for the foreseeable future, and Matthew Raywalt kind of launches into a bad stand-up act, running down Mickey James and her loss, and um, just the fact that she could not put away Deanna Prazzo. And that sets off Nick Aldis, who has hopped the rail. He runs in, and he has come from the audience. He hops the rail, jumps in, beats up Matthew Raywalt, like much like he did at No Surrender. Security has to come out and pull them apart, and we get the reminder on commentary that Nick Aldis is not a contracted Impact wrestler. So we shall see what happens to these two. Segment rating of 39, which is better than we have been getting on this show. So hopefully that's a bump up. Uh, in a poor match, I wouldn't say poor match, but Shane Strickland defeats Chris Bay in one-on-one action. Shane Strickland again debuting on the pre-show for No Surrender against Steve Macklin, defeating him. Also defeats Chris Bay. Um, and not that Chris Bay was necessarily wanting or asking for the help, but his Bullet Club mate Hikuleo runs in and tries to interfere on his behalf, and it backfires. So that gives Shane Strickland the win and continued momentum. Segment rating of 36. And then afterwards, while Shane celebrates, Chris Bay and Hikuleo are. It's more Chris Bay yelling at Hikuleo for screwing him out of the win. Eventually, Chris Bay takes the mic and he's like, "Screw this, screw all this." When the Bullet Club called me to join, reminder, they called me to join. I thought I was gonna be, in the Bullet Club, the main Bullet Club. I thought I was gonna be amongst the elite, not, babysitting a bunch of developmental talent. So, you know, Hikuleo, screw you, screw El Phantasmo. He's not even here tonight, so screw both of you. I'm going, above your head, above everyone else. I'm going to the top to see, what I can do to, you know, basically fix this because this has been nothing but screwing me over. The Bullet Club, this isn't Bullet Club, basically, is the point he's trying to make. So, unfortunately, a segment rating of 16. But yeah, Chris Bay's kind of fed up with his status in Bullet Club USA, at least. We get a backstage interview with Quinn McKay, where she interviews Chris Sabin. Coming off of his loss at No Surrender, Sabin puts over that you know Miguel was the better man that night, and kind of you know he is willing to eat his words and say, admit that the X Division title is in good hands with Miguel, and but he was also backstage talking with Scott D'Amore about his future, and he gets interrupted by Steve Macklin. And Macklin's like, "Oh, you were talking with Scott D'Amore, huh? Like, about your future, huh? What are you gonna do? You gonna uh, politic your way into another X title shot? You gonna try to block me out? This is all a conspiracy against me. Like I've said, like I've been saying, they just want me not to be close to the X Division title." And Saban's like, "Man, just shut up already." Saban's like, "You don't know what I was talking about with Scott D'Amore. Like, and if I was talking about getting an X title shot, wouldn't that help you if I were to win so you could get another shot back? But now you can't. The only person that's been blocking your progress here is you. There's no conspiracy against you. You're just a dick that no one likes and doesn't want to shut up. But if you want to keep thinking that way, you know, I'm willing to see you in the ring next week." So Macklin just kind of like, whatever, like, I'll see you next week. So we have a match next week for Impact between Sabin and Macklin. Segment rating of 29. And in a match which honestly I kind of this was kind of a filler match to fill time. Jake Something defeats Larry D. Segment rating of 21. Again, this is in our quest to help get Jake Something a bit more over. And that, hopefully will work. But after the match, he takes the mic and he kind of calls out W. Morrissey. And he's like, "Hey, Morrissey, I hope you thought about what I said last week. And I know you came out here and you complained about not having a spot on a pay-per-view and you weren't at No Surrender, that you weren't on No Surrender. Well, we got Sacrifice up in a couple weeks. So what do you say? You and me at Sacrifice?" Morrissey comes out with a mic of his own. He's like, "Yeah, I did think about what you said, and no." It's like you're not gonna use me to build yourself up at my expense. I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm a megastar. I'm bigger than you. And I'm bigger than Impact, and blah blah blah. And you're not gonna use me to get yourself over. So if you want to match at Sacrifice, the answer is no. And Morrissey, goes to the back. And again, Jake something's like, you don't, what is this guy's deal? So, uh, but something is getting better at his gimmick. The storyline has gained heat, segment rate 27. So hopefully that's a good sign that Jake something is getting over. At the expense of almost at the expense of Morrissey, but we will see in the future. And after that, we get a promo from the Wolves who come out. And basically Eddie talks about how you know, he he was kind of at a crossroads in this career in Impact. He could have gone after, the Impact World title, and he's thought about it. He's still thinking about it. But, he saw his, former partner and his brother uh not real brother, um, but he saw Davey getting back in the business, doing it right, killing it on the independent circuit, winning titles, and he thought, let's get the band back together. Let's go after the tag titles. Let's set that record. Let's break that record and set that record that, most Impact tag team title reigns. We want to lay our claim as the best team in Impact. And Davey kind of gets on the mic. He's like, I know I told you this uh, backstage. I told you this after the match. I'll tell you this tonight. I'm going to tell you in front of the fans. I'm tell the fans. I'm sorry about No Surrender. I'm sorry that, I was the one. I was the weak link. I was the one that took the pin. And Eddie's like, don't worry about it. All this means is we got to build ourselves back up. We got because I know we are the best team in Impact, and we got to prove it. Once we get another shot at the Good Brothers, we can take those titles back, and we will be the best team in Impact. Suddenly the lights go out. They come back on, and it's Brody King and Tyler Bateman are standing behind the Wolves, and they attack them from the behind, lay them out, beat them down, and basically after such a beatdown, Brody takes the mic and says, "Wolves, consider yourselves hunted," and throws the mic down and basically and leaves the Wolves laying out. So more new faces in Impact in Brody King and Tyler Bateman. Two names I wanted to bring in for since basically the start of this game and the whole like Ring of Honor uh, situation, so they're mostly available. But yeah, originally I wanted to bring them in separately, and then I didn't even know, but they were a tag team early in Brody's career, and Bateman's had a long career, so it's like just bring them in as team. We need teams anyway. Hopefully they'll be a good team and a good addition. So King has a badass gimmick, and Bateman has a mysterious gimmick. So we're kind of bringing them in as is, and they both got initial rating of adequate. Um, again, I don't get this. Not enough star power to have them fighting for that long. I don't know if it was that long. Let's see. 6 minutes. That is kind of long. Well, but in my mind, factoring the promo, like pretend that at least half of that is the promo and half of that is the beat down. So they weren't beating them down for 6 minutes, but whatever. Revisionist history. Segment rating 34. So hopefully that's a good debut for them, and we will see. Hopefully them tearing it up in the tag division soon. And then later on, We see Scott Demore kind of frantically searching in the back, and he runs into Rich Swann and Willie Mack. And he's like, "Hey, remember back at Hard to Kill? I had to leave you off with a hardcore war, and I said I'll pay you back later. Well, now's the time. You know, I'm booking Sacrifice. I need a contender for Good Brothers, and I know they've kind of cold shouldered you out of shot, but I'm giving it to you. I'm going above their head. I'm giving you the shot." And they're just like that. And it's like, just like that. Like, I could have given the Wolves another shot, but after, we just saw I can't in good conscience have them going into something like that at not 100%. And really, who all do I have left as teams? You guys get the shot. You guys have been proving yourselves lately. It's yours. So they're psyched, but then Brian Myers and Avery Good are like, oh, hold up, hold up. What are you guys talking about, lack of teams in Impact? The we won our pre-show match, pointing to him and Avery Good, and there's like, we earned a shot, or we weren't earned a match on the main show for Sacrifice. You know, who's to say we couldn't face the Good Brothers? And Scott Demore's kind of chuckling to himself. He's like, whatever. I've already booked it. Good Brothers versus Swan and Mac. But you guys, I have opponents for you in mind, and in walk Heath and Rhino, who we haven't seen in a while. So, and Myers kind of like throws up his hands, like, "Oh, we got to deal with these guys. These guys. You know, everywhere I go, I got to run into Heath, and I got to run into Terry, and you know." He's kind of throwing a fit, but Heath and Rhino are just, in the hunt, I guess, again. But so it looks like we have multiple matches booked for Sacrifice. Not only are the tag titles on the line, Good Brothers versus Swan and Mac, but we have the learning tree of Myers and Avery Good versus Heath and Rhino. Segment rating of 32. And then in a match, we have Jonathan Gresham versus Michael Bennett. This is Bennett's first match in Impact since, well, who knows how long. It's been at least probably a couple years. Um, we have, um, yeah, the fallout from No Surrender, where Michael Bennett and Marie Kanellis returned and kind of ran down Gresham and Jordan Grace, and it seemed like as if Maria Kanellis was interfering for Michael Bennett's behalf, likely multiple times, until Jordan Grace runs out and attacks Maria and kind of interferes on Gresham's behalf. And basically, it all falls apart. We have a double disqualification due to interference due to Maria Kanellis on behalf of Michael Bennett, and Jordan Grace on behalf of her husband. We have wives and husbands fighting all over the place. So, but Chelsea Green does come out and is kind of not doing a very good job of helping keeping these teams apart. So she's kind of stuck in the middle of it, just like she was at No Surrender. Segment rating of 35. All right, so we have another segment. We have a promo, mostly from Rosemary, but she is with Taya Valkyrie, and Rosemary is kind of ranting about how, you know, she, you know, she cherished her time in decay, but it was time to move on. And, with the return of Taya Valkyrie, she saw the return of maybe her greatest friend, but definitely her greatest rival. But when she wasn't sure what to think, but when she landed in her arms, she saw that there was one set of footprints in the deserts of decay and in the deserts of her mind, and she's basically ranting and raving how, she does. And um basically Havoc interrupts, and she's like, you know I've had about enough of this. And she's like, you know Rosemary, you may be ready to leave decay behind, but I don't really know what she wants to say. But basically she's like, I could blame Swinger and his guys for breaking up Decay. I could blame James Mitchell. I could even blame you, Rosemary. But no, I blame you, Ty Valkyrie. And Ty is just kind of indignant. I can't talk today. Sorry. um, it doesn't help that my loud ass truck or loud ass neighbor's truck is uh being worked on next door. But yeah. Um, But yeah, basically, this ends up in a brawl. Just cut to the chase. Havoc, and Taya Valkyrie brawl. Rosemary is left in the middle, kind of like uh, kind of trying to hold apart her two friends. Again, Decay is broken up, so it's not that like Rosemary and Havoc are a team anymore. But again, kind of where does her loyalty lie? Will this be a distraction into her knockouts title match at Sacrifice? So that gets a segment rating of 35. Again, we get the fighting too long warning, 5 minutes. So again, like I kind of booked like, you know, this is a promo and a beatdown, so it's not like they're fighting that long, but maybe I do need to time these better between timing these segments and these abrupt turns. Maybe I need to plan these out better. But again, this is my first time playing TEW 2020, so live and learn, I guess. But Sigma rank 25, and then afterwards, um, Moose comes out to the ring and cuts a promo, and he basically brings up, he's like, well, we've both, Moose, Josh Alexander, we've both, you know, succeeded in our challenges and our pick your poison at no surrender. And, as we go into sacrifice, making the ultimate sacrifice, one of us has to leave Impact. But I went to my lawyers and amended the contracts to the match, and I want to make this as fair as possible. So I'm, with the help of my lawyers, amended the contract and making this as fair as possible and making this a 2 out of 3 falls match, which brings out Scott D'Amore. Scott D'Amore is like, I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get into Josh Alexander's head. He's wanted this match ever since you took that Impact title. You stole that Impact title, world title from him, and you're trying to get him mad, get him off his game, get him flustered. But I can tell you, as one of his best friends, that's not going to happen because Josh Alexander knows he's been wanting this match. And now that he knows he's got it in any way, shape, or form, he has that match. And he's made it a loser leaves Impact match because he knows, you know, that's the sacrifice he needs to make if he wants to be world champion again, and if he wants to get rid of scum like you. And I'm inclined to agree. You keep making all these contract changes and trying to stack the deck in your favor. I'm willing to let the 2 out of 3 false steps stand, but that ends tonight. I'm sick of all your meddling, and honestly, I'm sick of you. I'm sick of your attitude, and I've tried to be impartial in this whole thing. I've tried to uh, calm Josh Alexander down, tried to get him to, you know, take the true path, and I wanted to be impartial. I didn't want to let friendship get in the way of his career and his rise. But, I can't do it. I can't be impartial anymore, especially after, you know, getting forced into that, role at Sacrifice where I had to, you made me guest ref him and Mike Bailey trying to rip, tear friendship apart. And I just can't stand for this. I can't stand for you. And honestly, with all impartiality out of the way, if Josh Alexander beats you, I can't wait to get rid of you. So, and that sets Moose off. Moose kind of goozles Scott Demore, gets ready to lay him out. That brings out Josh Alexander. Josh goes to attack Moose. Moose ducks, and Josh Alexander accidentally lays out Scott Demore, his friend. So, Moose takes his, gets out of the ring, takes his title, kind of feigns shock, but knows that, he had maybe finally gotten into Josh Alexander's head and hopefully gotten him off his game, leading up to their match at Sacrifice. So, we have one more episode of Impact before then. We shall see. But yeah, this week's episode, segment 27, Josh Alexander was poor trying to improvise dialogue. I thought I had these scripted, but maybe I, you know, had this kind of like as a shoot promo, kind of having them improvise as, Scott Demore telling how much he doesn't like Moose and all that, but, I kind of thought I had this all scripted maybe. Who knows? But yeah, that kind of hurt it. But yeah, this ends with kind of Josh Alexander laying out Scott Demore, trying to help him back up, but knowing that this is all Moose's fault and he wants revenge in more ways than one. So overall rating of 32. I was kind of worried that this was below 30 with some of these. Um, we've had, yeah, like Swinger finding the mystery note, Chris Bay and Hikuleo arguing. We're all below 20. So, but, you know, that will happen, I guess. So yeah, next week we have a big week. Well, this is the last week in February, so next week will be March. Um, so we'll have lots of end of month news. We have one more episode of Impact, and then we have Sacrifice. So, um, yeah. So as far as we know for Sacrifice, um, maybe run into it real quick. We obviously have the loser leaves Impact, but now we have a tag title match. We have the Learning Tree match. We have a new tag team um, in Impact. And then also next week we have Chris Sabin versus Steve Macklin. So yeah, we'll see what happens next week, and I will see you later.